14 over there for people that testify. You can just come hang out with us, be part of the group. Senator Steele, would you do the invocation? You number 3 or 4 there? 3.
We live?
You're live.
Well, lest we start praying before Senator Estevez gets in his seat. I wouldn't want to bring the wrath of God down on us for improper sanctity of the moment. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the rain because we need it, and we need your wisdom, and we need your grace, and all the things that we do in your service. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. So normally our fiscal notes come from the Fiscal Audit Department, but some of them come from DCA, and in this case with Senator Watson's bills, they come from DCA. DCA is telling us they can't really give us a fiscal note. They don't really think they can determine it accurately, but this is all local money. It's local property tax money. There's no state money involved. Senator Rhett, you came in late, but these mics aren't working. I'm trying to leave that one open for the witnesses. So, Senator Watson, you want to come up before somebody else grabs that seat? So, we've heard some of this before. So, we've got, let me see which one we want to do first here. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead with Senate Bill 45. If you recall, he was wanting to increase the acreage from 2,000 to 4,000 per person, and as he mentioned, sometimes this might be in his wife's name as well. So the fiscal impact may not be much different, just whose name it's in. So give us a brief rundown. We have heard this bill, those that were at the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll do that. And she was here earlier, but I'm glad she's left.
I'm
again.
glad she's here since
trouble.
you abandoned her on her anniversary, So.
But no, sir. Thank you. Basically, what we've got going on is there's a 2,000 acre cap that was originally placed in the CUVA legislation when it was put into law years ago. Obviously, our farms have changed, and the family farms are getting much larger today. And so we're just wanting to allow for landowners to be able to put up to 4,000 acres in their name before they have to then put it in their spouse's name or their children's name. Just helps keep the farm together and keep things cleaner, and is one of the recommendations that came out of our Farmland Preservation Study Committee over the summer. And that's what the bill does. There's the enabling legislation, and then there's also a constitutional amendment as well.
So Senate Bill 45 is your bill, and then Senate Resolution 56, that's the one that goes with it. That's the enabling legislation that would be
Correct.
on the ballot.
It will go before the people on the ballot.
Okay, questions on Senate Bill 45? Senator Hickman.
Senator, I fully understand what you're doing here, and I appreciate it. I think the guy that testified when it was committee, I mean, he's the representative that actually did this bill back, what, 25 years ago now, or something like that?
Yes, sir.
At least that long, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. It was, CUVA, the Conservation Use Program was, I think, done in the late 80s, early 90s. So it's a fairly dated program. And over the years, we've had to make several changes. We've had to do this for farm equipment. We've had to do this for family farm entities. You'll see some of that language in this bill where we've added that and defined that in code to allow farmers that aren't related to purchase land together. That was a change we've had. So we've been making these changes for quite some time, and this is just another one that came up in our study committee that we had not looked at.
Thank you, sir.
And I will add, too, that I have spoken with the Association of County Commissioners, and they are neutral on this bill. Am I saying that correctly? Okay. Yeah, if I don't see any other questions, we can take a motion now.
Motion, we pass the bill.
This is Senate Bill 45. That's LC number 442941.
Yes, sir.
All in agreement on that. Got a second from Senator Steele. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Then you've got your Senate Resolution 56, the enabling legislation that would be put on the ballot. We need to pass this as well if there's a motion on that.
So moved.
And Senator Hickman again, a second by Senator Rhett. Any discussion on this? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, you've got one more here that will be new business for us. That's going to be Senate Bill 59. If you want to talk about it, sure.
Yes, sir. This is Senate Bill 59 was another recommendation that came out of the Senate Farmland Preservation Committee over the summer. We've been having this problem across the state, and didn't realize it until we had some testimony and heard about it last year. There was actually a House bill that was trying to address some of this. So currently, if you're leasing or farming with an unrelated individual or another farmer, a neighbor down the road, and you're not related to them, and you decide to lease a farm from a third party, the landowner is in breach of their conservation use covenant. And so basically, again, farming has changed. Farmers are partnering up with neighbors and starting to do things together because of the cost of production and different things. So we've had several farmers come forward now that have had to do things differently. We've got one in particular that's had to pay the penalty in their county because of this. They've been farming together for over 30 years, and they finally got in trouble for this, and they had to pay the penalty for the landowner. And
I think
so
you've had a couple of maybe tax assessors that have taken a little bit more narrow approach to this that have
that's correct.
made you want to bring forth this legislation of things that kind of had been going on, but
Yes,
a
sir.
couple of them have come in with that.
That's what we're doing in the bills. We're just allowing those family, farm entities that have LLCs, then they want to farm together and partner up, that they can go out and lease farmland. It has to stay farmland. You see the things that it has to stay and include, and that's what the bill does.
And again, there's no local impact on this to my state impact on this to my understanding. And the ACCG is neutral on this one as well. Senator Dolezal.
Help me understand lines 58.
Well, yours just went out again. We've had trouble with that before, so use the one next to it.
Can you help me understand line 58 to 60, which is the reference to a revenue percentage that comes from conservation uses? I'm curious why that's necessary.
We want to make sure that they stay within those uses and they don't obtain the land but not keep it in conservation use program items.
So would you envision this as basically being kind of special purpose LLCs then that would get stood up? I'm thinking about companies that may have different holdings but still may want to participate in this program. Because if it's leased to a person or entity, which would not be entitled. So I'm thinking if it's leased to them, this is applying to the person that the land is leased to, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think your bill is just as effective without it, but I'm sure you have a good reason for having it in there. So I was just curious what the reasoning was.
Well, I know there was a lot of debate about this bill, the House version of this bill last year when it came to this committee. Representative Cannon, I think, had this bill in this committee, and I know there was a lot of changes made by this committee last year.
Yeah, I can certainly see both sides of this. If it's not doing bona fide conservation uses, then it seems like it wouldn't qualify anyway. But I'm not sure either way on that if it's needed or not. All right, any other questions of the committee? If anybody needs time to go through it, we can certainly do that as well. This is something that it's kind of been before this committee, as Senator Watson said, but this particular bill hasn't been here before. Seeing none, if you want to go ahead and make a motion, Senator Hickman.
Make a motion to pass, Senate Bill 59, LC 442942.
Second.
Got a motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries, and, you don't have any more bills for us, do you?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members
Okay.
of the committee. Appreciate it.
All right. All right, we'll bring up our esteemed, judicial chairman. That's what I hear. Though Senator Russ Goodman had to come 3 times till we perfected his bill, so we do occasionally.
I'll
you
be
know,
around if you need me to come back. of
Those
course.
that bring us stuff sometimes. But anyway, go ahead and we'll go through your bill. There is a fiscal note in your folder that you can look at as well on that. Tell us the bill number, the LLC you're working from, and walk us through it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I bring to you Senate Bill 89. It's LC 501009.
Hang on.
Some quick background on this. This bill came, just like the last bill, from a study committee. This came from the study committee this last year that you all supported, that was established by Lieutenant Governor to study the issue of lack of access to affordable child care in our state. And it was it was a very interesting experience getting the chair of this committee, because the first committee we talked about the problem. We knew there was a problem. But I thought what I found was interesting is you had so many groups come together to talk about why it was a problem for them. And one of the first things we talked about the first committee, you're not going to hear from the working families themselves, because they don't have the ability to come up to the Capitol and testify. All the ability to hire lobbyists. May have associations that lobby for them, but your everyday working Georgian, whether it's a single parent or 2 working parents, because of the issues of lack of affordability of child care and lack of access to child care, they aren't up here lobbying us. And so it was really neat to get to work on an issue to speak for the people that are yelling very loudly at us but aren't able to come up here and talk to us directly. What was great about the study committee is we actually then brought together people from the business community, people from the child care industry itself, a lot of groups that work on early education issues in our state. They're all coming here saying, this is creating big problems for our state. From the business community side, we need workers more than ever. Businesses want people to work, but one of the big barriers to employment for people is childcare. We obviously want to encourage people to have families, want to be a family-friendly state, but at the same time, being able to work with and raise children is just very expensive, a very challenging process, something I live every day, having 2 boys now myself. And then I'll get to the bill, and I'm talking too long. But the stat that stood out to me the most, and someone probably has this exact number what it is, it now costs more to have a baby than it costs for you to send a kid to college and pay for it yourself. We're told, early in life that, okay, you got to start saving for college, and you do things as parents, try to save for your kid's future. It costs more now just to have that kid. And with all the inflation, all the rising prices and rising costs in our country, this has gone up more than almost anything else the last couple of years. And so this bill won't solve all the problem. I'm not here to say I've got the solution. It's a national problem. It's bigger than Georgia. But this bill is a step in the right direction to not just acknowledge the problem, but to give some relief to families and businesses in our state. So Senate Bill 89 has 3 parts to it, and this is all tax credits. Section 1, there's 2 existing tax credits that we are amending with the bill. The first one is an existing tax credit that is a federal tax credit that Georgia recognizes for certain qualified child and dependent care expenses. And we are increasing, as you'll see on line 18, the amount of that tax credit, going up to the 40% of the current federal level versus the current law, which you'll see on line 25, is at 30%. So increasing the amount of tax credit that families can get for certain child care expenses. Section 2 is a brand new tax credit. Section 3 will be an existing one again. Section 2 creates a new child tax credit for all taxpayers in our state for children under the age of 7. The idea of this is the extra expense you have before a kid is in school. Of course, we know school creates another round of expenses, but for young children to provide some relief to working families in our state for children 6 and under. And the bill contemplates $250 per child as a tax credit. And that's a new tax credit. And then Section 3 is another existing tax credit that is a federal tax credit that Georgia recognizes. And this is for employers that offer childcare. I've said this every time. I don't believe you'll meet any employer in our state that doesn't want to offer childcare if they can afford to do it. And this helps expand those that are able to offer childcare and increases the amount they get back in a tax credit as far as these expenses go. So first, line 77, this deals with what qualifies as qualified childcare property. And you'll see, looking down 86 to 88, the existing law, this is the investment in the property itself, the facility itself, as you see, the building itself. And we're changing the standard currently right now. To be qualified, you have to have 95% of the children in your facility to be children of your employees. The problem is sometimes from a cost standpoint, you need to have more flexibility to have other people pool into this, to pool with other companies or to pool with other people in town to help afford offering childcare. And one thing somebody pointed out, this also will give more flexibility to have the childcare workers have their children stay in the facilities as well. So we changed that from 95% to 75% on line 77. We also have 2 other changes getting into the next part of the tax credit itself, and this is the amount of the actual credit when it comes to operation costs. And we're increasing that from 75% to 90% of the cost of operation on line 91. And lastly, on the next page, on line 95, this is the total cap as to how much you can get in tax credit based on how much tax you pay in a year. We're increasing that from 50% to 75%. There's a fiscal note in your folder that you all have. You'll see the biggest cost of this is the new tax credit. And the only criticism I've heard of this bill is it's not enough, is what some people say, and I agree it's not going to solve the problem. But we have to realize that everything we do costs us money as well. And trying to balance that, you see the cost of this legislation is estimated to be over $179 million for fiscal year 26, increasing to $188 million by fiscal year 30. So last thing I'll say is I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor. This is something that is a priority for him that he has led on with the creation of the study committee and also with this bill. And the study committee had a long list of things it recommended, and this is the first piece that we're trying to tackle. Happy to take any questions.
So the big cost is the $250 child tax credit that's in there.
Yes, sir.
So I was thinking there'd be more with a third than this number, but maybe not. Okay, I think we've got Senator Beach.
Yeah, Senator Strickland, thanks for bringing this forward. Can you talk a little bit about lines 91 and 92, the 90% of the cost of operation to the employer less any amounts paid for by employees during a taxable year? Can you explain that a little bit? So if I'm reading this correctly, if an employer, like I have a healthcare company up in my district that has a not healthcare, for child care for their employees, so they would get 90% of a tax credit minus what the employee pays to them to bring their child there?
That's right. And it's obviously all we're changing is the percentage, but that's my understanding is it's 90% of the total cost of operation. And that's, I believe, operations can be defined elsewhere in this
And that's for the employer?
This is for the employer, that's correct.
Okay. What, in your study committee, follow-up question, Mr. Chairman? In your study committee, you said this, and it has risen. My son just had twins, and my daughter's got 3 kids, and
Yeah, you hear
the
about
cost is unbelievable for, child care. But what's causing that? You say it's risen higher than anything else we've had that you've seen, and do you have a reason for that? Is it insurance cost or?
That's a part of it too. There was a laundry list of reasons that were given for that, and I'm sure they all come together. And one of the big issues is just having not just affordability, but access. Just like with healthcare, it's great if it's affordable. If you still have access, you got a problem. And I'm sure that also helps drive up the cost. But what I found most interesting, I think, is, and some of the people may be here in the room that will say this, childcare facilities are having trouble getting workers. And some of them is because their workers don't have childcare. And so it becomes an issue that just goes full circle, that I'm sure that's helping drive up the cost with the lack of access to care itself.
All right, one more question, and then we've got some people that'll speak on this. Senator Warrock, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the work that you've been doing on this really cutting-edge issue, and the numbers kind of tell the story that we need to address affordability. I was looking to see if there was anywhere, any of the analysis, the backup facts on how we rank with other states. I know, there's always those that are the front runners and those bringing up the rear, and the South usually brings up the rear. So I don't know, I don't really know the answer to the question, but kind of ranking wise where we
Yeah,
are.
I don't know. I guess it depends on how you rank it too, but I don't remember seeing, somebody else may add to this, but seeing a state-by-state comparison of actual costs. Because just like in Georgia, it varies based on where you live too, what it costs in Atlanta. You might have more access in some places in Atlanta, but there's also wait lists in town.
Exactly.
But the cost may also be different. So I don't have that exact number though,
Thank
for
you.
the comparison.
All right, we're gonna hear from as I said, from the people that want to speak before we have any more that speak. I was gonna see, no, one's still not working, so yeah, I guess we'll use that same mic. Everybody that speaks, I want to give you time to say what you need to say, but, at the same time, try to be concise and try to not be redundant and that kind of stuff for us when you come up, if you would. So I think the first one is Ellen Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Feels very weird sitting here. Ellen Reynolds, and I have been working with the child care industry for 25 years and still represent about 125 child care centers across the state. We actually brought this because I represent Child Development Schools, which has schools in 11 states across the country, as well as 100 schools here in Georgia, and Kids Are Kids had brought this to us as well, who has schools in 18 states. And Florida actually, in the last couple of years, implemented a tax incentive quite like this. And so that was why we brought it to the committee. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor for creating the committee and his interest in helping families afford child care. I want to thank the chairman over here for getting us thrust upon him. He didn't know how much he cared about it until he kind of got pulled into the task. But this is something, it has become increasingly expensive. Senator Beach, to your questions, our fixed cost, at least 40 to 60% of our cost is labor. And we, unlike other companies, can't control labor because we have group size and ratios, as we should. So we can't really control that cost. It depends on where you are in the state, but I'll be honest with you, it's not much cheaper in Statesboro to hire people than it is in Atlanta right now. You have other fixed costs like rent. Insurance has been an increasing cost. I think the chairman heard from a child care provider Monday night in the tort reform discussion that his insurance premiums had gone up 100% since 2018. So that's becoming a challenge because we have more providers leaving the market. We have over 430 regulations. To give you an example, one of those is diapering a baby, and there's 26 steps to diapering a baby in that one regulation. Not ironically, I'm really proud of this of our industry. You don't hear a single child care center saying roll back the regulations. They believe that these regulations are needed for the health and safety of children, but it is expensive. And every time somebody adds one more on, they want to do it unfunded, and it just adds to the tuition cost. So all of those things, if we want to pay our staff more as rent rises, we've certainly seen a ton of inflation throughout the pandemic. Those things have led to both, disposable items as well as staff and things like that. Diapers are more expensive, those kind of things. So I just wanted to share that. And also in the past, when we were less regulated and childcare was less expensive, we could afford to pay for the childcare for a lot of our employees. We simply can't absorb that cost anymore. And we were looking for an idea to bring new money into the system that wasn't 100% state dollars. And so we thought if we can encourage and incentivize employers to help their employees access childcare, the way we help incentivize them to provide health care for their employees. In particular, what I really want to highlight is this tax credit had always worked better for bigger companies like Austin & Berg, Home Depot, Coca-Cola, that could take advantage. It hadn't worked as well for small businesses, and I think they've done a lot to add to that incentive, and we're hoping we can work to spread that word and get more small businesses to purchase slots for their employees. So if there are no questions,
All right, we certainly appreciate your testimony. Quick question here to Cinderette.
Yes, I was just going to say, I was on the committee with Senator Strickland. They didn't put a diaper on me, maybe him, I don't know. But I did realize how how much work goes behind, trying to have a facility like that and the steps and regulations. It was an eye-opener.
it is. But I don't think we look at any other institution where we're caring for nonverbal humans and expect it to be cheap. And it shouldn't be cheap for young children either.
All right, well, thank you very much for your testimony. Polly McKinney, that's been with Voices for Children, it seems like forever. I came here in 2013, and I think you were with them then, weren't you?
I'm sorry?
When I came here in 2013, you were with Voices for Children then, I
Yes,
believe.
yes,
yeah.
sir, yes, sir.
Still there.
And I've been there a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. But I still care, so here, here I am. I'm the advocacy director, and to save time, in your folder is a little handout that gives some data points around the cost of childcare. And I'm just going to say ditto Ellen, what she said. But also, the one thing that I do want to call it is quality is really important. And when you're taking small children whose brains are developing and you're putting them into care, making sure that the staff that are caring for them are well-trained and you're providing quality childcare is really expensive, which speaks to some of the rise in cost as well. And as we have all learned about brain development and how those first years are crucial, they're also crucial in teenage years. And when a family is putting out funding for early childhood, and then they have older kids, they also have to put out for older child care, for after school and things like that. So the whole ecosystem of raising a child is expensive and worthy. And so we're super supportive of Senate Bill 89, and I just encourage your support.
Senator Estevez, you got.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Polly,
Hello.
for all that you do.
You're welcome.
I did want to push back a little bit on the numbers that you have in here. $154 a week.
Average, so average.
Is that country? Is that state?
So I will
That
have to look
feels-
in my citations. I know it feels low.
It feels very low.
I think some of it has to do with if you're looking at the average cost, A, it depends on where you are. B, it depends on, it says infants and toddlers, so toddlers are going to be less expensive. And this is weekly, not monthly,
Okay.
right? So toddlers are going to be less expensive than infants by far.
Okay.
It's like older kids are less expensive, and I'll have to look at maybe national numbers, but I'll have
Yeah.
to read the citations that are in the back to tell you
Got it.
because I didn't.
Well, I just
memorize
want to say that I've spoken to people across the state.
Yes.
And they are reporting at least $1,000 at least. And if
A
you're
month.
a month, and if you're talking about Metro Atlanta, then it's double that.
Well, and it depends on whether they're counting subsidies and things like that in this average, which is
that
the other
makes
thing. So
sense, yeah.
CAPS is the
That would make sense.
mostly
Caps.
federal child care dollars, but that is per, eligibility criteria and all of that stuff. So I think that my guess, and again, I'd have to look at the citation and go back and do a little more homework than I did before I came in here after school day. But I think that probably factors into the average.
Great.
Right, because they take the average and then they divide it out. But it's still, nevertheless, for a lot of families, $154 is a lot of money a week. And plus, to Ellen's point, diapers, plus food, plus shelter, plus
Yes.
transportation. So I just have to say we're super supportive. For a lot of families, this is a lot, but I know that when my kids were, a billion years ago, when I first started this work and my kids were in childcare, even then, as a single mom, I was paying around, $500 or $600 a month per child.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a lot.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I'll spare us the discussion on the federal funding points and the squeeze that child care centers are feeling right now because of some of the stuff at the federal level. But appreciate, Mr. Chairman, you bringing this bill, and I'm very supportive of it.
All right, Senator Orrock.
Mr. Chair. Thanks for your long years of advocacy for our children, and thanks to Voices as well. I was doing the reading, you all encourage us, reading in the preschool
Mhm.
centers, and had a good opportunity to talk with the staff, and tell me if this is too far afield, but there's decal money, that they have to put together a very complex flow of dollars
Mhm.
to
Yes,
serve
the
low-income
braided.
families.
Mhm.
And they had been moved from the highest ranking, number 3 ranking. It was the top rank for a child care center in terms of hitting all the meeting up, exceeding all the standards. They've been doing that for years, and this is I've known the family that runs this center for a long time, and so she spoke with me frankly, and they were informed, as were child care centers across the state, that DeKalb had rearranged things to deny people that number 3 rank in significant numbers, and it knocked $30,000 out of their budget to go from a 3 to a 2 with no explanation of how did that change. You may not have come across that, but she had real numbers, and I just.
Is that the cap? Are you talking about eligibility for quality, for quality rated? Yeah, that
Yeah.
probably did. And I can't speak for the department on.
No, I didn't know if you were aware of this, but because, again, that's a place that we want to look to see that we're not shortchanging, folks in a program that's supposed to be helping.
Yeah.
I mean, it left a hole in the budget of anybody that was a 3, and now they're a 2. And she understood from a outside consultant, that only 20 centers in the whole state now had a 3 ranking. We can talk offline about that, but that's a part of the money picture.
Yeah, for sure.
That we need to look at when we're looking at how we're funding this.
Yeah, well, I'll certainly look into it. I would ask the department how that played out. I don't know if any of my colleagues in the seats have anything to say there, but I would, my thought too, the one thing I will say is I know that they're looking at quality rated again, that they're reviewing how they do that right now, and I don't know if that will factor in or not. I wish Ellen has something.
I can share. So you're talking about the centers go through quality rating and they get a star of 1, 2, or 3. Sometimes they change the instruments so that they become a little more challenging. Itters and Eckers.
It's called moving the goalpost, yeah.
Well, but it's a national test. It's not something Georgia does.
Uh-huh.
So, and I will tell you very honestly, the quality did go down during the pandemic because DeKalb was not doing visits inside centers.
Sure.
So part of it, I do honestly have to say, is we're coming back from not having regular visits for our licensing. So I do not believe that there's a cap with only 20 centers in the state that are 3
Oh, I didn't say cap, I just
All right.
meant numerically, yeah,
I
but,
don't believe that's.
and we can pursue that,
Yeah, y'all can get on offline and do that. Appreciate you being here. And when I first came here in 2013, my daughter was here working on her PhD in developmental psychology, and spent some time with Polly learning what she did here. Now, when she was born in California, I was living out there. We had no family. She's got a 3 and a 1-year-old, and she's got 2 grandmothers that tag team for her. So she has no idea how good she's got it, and not too many people have that. And it is, even with that, it's a lot of work. They wear us out. So we appreciate your testimony, and we'll move on to the next person, Hannah Goldberg with Gears.
both from families and from our partners across the state. I think it is not just childcare, but raising a family has grown more and more expensive, and is oftentimes prohibiting families from starting or growing their family. And what we have seen in a number of other states is turning to the tax code and to child tax credits in particular to help families face these mounting costs. And in fact, one of our recent polls that's hot off the presses, when we asked families what would most help them address the mounting childcare costs in particular, at the top of that list was a child tax credit. So just want to be here to say thank you for your awareness of this issue. Thank you to Chairman Strickland for his leadership with the Senate Study Committee on Access to Affordable Childcare. I think as he alluded to, the childcare challenges that we face are complex, and I don't think that any one piece of legislation or any budget item is going to solve the challenges that we face. But we're excited to see folks think about creative ways to help families afford both childcare expenses and basic needs like diapers, food, formula, groceries, and housing. Thank you.
All right, we certainly appreciate your testimony. Thank you. We've got Tim, I don't know if it's that Carroll or, I'm not sure if I'm saying the name right here, so I'll let you pronounce it for us.
It's Leanna Brown.
Well, why, oh, so you didn't look like Tim to me, but
I am filling in for Tim.
Okay.
Leanna Brown with the Metro Atlanta Chamber. Tim couldn't be here today as he is doing some more talent work back at the chamber, but thank you, Chairman Huffstetler, members of the committee, Senator Strickland for bringing the bill, and for Lieutenant Governor for his enthusiastic support. I won't belabor the point, but we were proud to support the study committee's work last year. Very proud to support this measure, as we believe it will help businesses of all sizes. One thing that I do want to mention briefly, we did some work a few years ago with GEARS, with HANA, to look at the cost of childcare challenges to the state, and we know that that led to at least $1.75 billion in losses in economic activity annually, and an additional $105 million in lost tax revenue. And so that is due to things like parents not being able to make it to work and choosing to raise their children instead because of childcare costs. We are working on updating that data right now, and we'll be sure to get it to you when it is ready.
all right, that sounds great. We appreciate your testimony. We've got one more. Lauren was a late addition here, if you want to say a couple of words.
Thank you so much, and glad I didn't bring a handout today. Tough crowd. Can't say anything that hasn't already been said, so we'll keep it brief. Charlotte Davis and I represent the Child Care Association of Georgia, as well as the Alliance of YMCAs. We're very grateful to participate in the study committee, and we wanted to go on record saying full-throated support for this particular bill. We think it'll be very high impact for families in Georgia, and thank you for hearing it today, and we encourage your favorable consideration.
All right, thank you, Lauren. All right, that's everybody that decided to speak on it, I believe. Oh. Okay, sure, come on up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Elizabeth Apley. I'm here on behalf of 9 to 5 Georgia, an organization of and for working women. We supported the study committee and provided testimony. Thank you to Chairman Strickland and the Lieutenant Governor for bringing this bill. It's an important step forward in helping working women and their families. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Appreciate you being here. All right, that's everybody that has signed up, I believe, to speak on this. Does the committee have any questions? Is that a question you've got over there?
I was just going to add a little bit of history. That Governor Zell Miller had the Year of the Child, in which he had learned that the development of the brain of the child in the first 5 years is decisive as to the rest of their progress, and did an extensive, so this ain't new news, folks, that we need to invest in this stuff. And that's, remember, he had a tape that everybody that had a baby in Georgia got the little engine that could, and some sort of tape for you to play to your newborn baby.
I would think 0 to 5 is where we need to do the most investment at, because that's where we make the most difference. Right. Senator Beach.
Are you ready for a motion?
Sure.
I move do pass Senate Bill 89, LC 501009.
We've got a second. Senator Beach made the motion, second by Senator Orrock. I believe she beat you there, Senator Hodges. You're a little too slow. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. And congratulations, and thanks for your hard work in the study committee and all the work y'all did on this. Impressive work. Meeting adjourned.